It has a lengthy psychological torture of a woman. Not only are the women portrayed as absolutely stupid sex objects, they are just vacuous and they are tortured. And I think it's sadistic and I think it's very nasty and I think it should just be binned.
I want you to picture this. It's 1983. A guy who runs a corner video shop in the north of England opens up one morning and there are police in the doorway. They're not there for drugs, not for stolen goods. They're there for movies. Cardboard boxes of VHS tapes that are going to be hauled out to a van. And that shopkeeper, he's looking at criminal charges over films you can now buy on Blu-ray with a nice little booklet inside. These didn't just get banned. They got people raided. They got people prosecuted. And a couple of them, they even actually got sent to prison.
Driller killer here on display in a video store. You can imagine that's going to be a magnet for police attention, isn't it?
This is the video Nasties. And today, we're counting down the 10 that caused the most real, documented, legal hell. From they banned this, all the way to a director who had to walk into a courtroom and prove he hadn't murdered his own cast. I'm Dan, and let's step into the vault.
40% of 6-year-olds have been watching video nasties. Wow, what a headline.
We never anticipated that it would reach 40% of figures being seen by children. This has shaken us.
And you can imagine what the phone calls to me said when I was confronted with this.
In the early 80s, home video was new and completely unregulated. There weren't many ratings, and there was no oversight. Anything could end up on a shelf. The tabloids, they panicked, and the government drew up a list. The Director of Public Prosecutions started going after titles by name. Shops got raided. Distributors got charged. And that list is what fans have called the video nasties ever since. And these films earned it the hard way.
It doesn't seem believable, yet every day this is what scores of Britain's school children are up to. They're tuning in their thousands to the sickening violence of an endless stream of video nasties.
Despite having an ex-film certificate, winning numerous awards, and being the most popular video of 1983, it was prosecuted earlier this year under the Obscene Publications Act.
The Evil Dead guys, Palace, were one of the very few people who did defend themselves, and I think they got picked on as a consequence.
We're going to start with the one that everybody goes, wait, this got banned? Yeah, Sam Raimi's Evil Dead. You know, The Cabin. The chainsaw. The demon nonsense. It got swept right up into the panic. Now, you and I know this movie is half horror and half Three Stooges with a shotgun. Bruce Campbell getting beaten up by his own furniture. But in the climate of this time, the relentless gore, it was enough. It ended up seized and raised alongside with the far nastier stuff. So here's the kicker. It was one of the most rented tapes in the country. At the same time, it was being treated as criminal contraband. Britain, they just couldn't decide if it was a cult classic or evidence. The tension is exactly why it kicks off our list.
We went to this strange court somewhere in East London for this test case. I took one look at the jury and I thought, we're going to win this.
One of the most notorious of them is Driller Killer. Its cover advertises with relish that blood flows in rivers. It carries a so-called warning that potential viewers will need stomachs of steel.
A man driven to the very edge and then beyond.
Here's the film that arguably started the whole circus. Abel Ferrara's grimy New York portrait of an artist who loses his mind and then uses a power drill. As a film, it's slow, It's got the scuzzy character pieces. But that's not what caused the trouble. It was the cover of the box. The VHS sleeve was a giant lurid image of a drill going straight into a man's forehead. A campaigner saw it, and the tabloids, they just ran with it. And the moral panic had its poster child, literally. The driller killer became the image the whole crusade was built around. Half the time, it wasn't the movie that got banned, it was the artwork.
I highlight, of course, Driller Killer, which actually showed the drill just about to go into somebody's brain. Now, that was on the front of the package.
So speaking of getting prosecuted for a poster, this one's a piece of Italian Nazi exploitation. It's grim.
This is just the beginning, you frigid, puritanical bitch.
Tasteless.
You better start dancing. Dance, dance.
Exactly the kind of thing that the drive-in circuit ran and polite society pretended just didn't exist.
Two atmospheres.
But what put this in the headlines wasn't really the content most people complained about. It was the sleeve. There was a body strung, upside down, swastika front and center, hanging in the horror section.
Have mercy. I'm not.
The outrage was just immediate, and it became one of the defining, how is this even legal, titles of the moment. The film itself, it really didn't even matter. It's the box that did the damage.
Can't do this, soldier. Hurry up.
I Spit on Your Grave.
And I can vividly remember the cover for I Spit on Your Grave. And there was something about the yellow of it with the sexy woman's arse and the promise of something the likes of which you would never before witnessed.
Now we climb into the movies that probably should have got banned. I Spit on Your Grave, which was originally floating around under the title Day of the Woman. This thing is rough.
I remember being in a video shop. There was an old lady, I mean a real, little old lady in front of me, and she was saying, "I think I'm going to have a horror. I'll take this one," and picked up I Spit in Your Grave. And you just think, what a strange night she's going to have. What a culture shock that's going to be.
It's ugly. And it's hard to sit through revenge cinema. I mean, there's no arguments there. And it became one of the single most confiscated tapes in the entire country. When police were pulling boxes off shelves, this was near the top of the pile every single time. It stayed effectively unavailable in Britain in anything like its full form for decades. This is the one where the word banned stops being a marketing gimmick and starts meaning a real wall between you and the movie.
So they said, "We've got this other film, do you want to come around and watch it?" And it was I Spit on Your Grave, which I think kind of, I don't know, left me quite shattered. I haven't seen it since, and it's kind of one of those things I don't want to see again. Not because it's appalling or anything like that, but because it might ruin the effect that I remember it having on me at the time, which was that, yeah, I mean, it terrified me, it appalled me. And I think at that age as well, you totally look past the idea that it's not a very well-made film.
It's almost as though the video nasty has replaced the Conjurer and the party games at parties.
More and more we are getting complaints from the public who say their children have been to a party, and instead of it being the norm, they've been shown a video nasty.
This is Wes Craven's debut. Yeah, before Freddy and before Scream, he made this film. And it's a raw, mean little movie loosely lifted from a Bergman story, of all things.
Max, listen, I can help you. I'll get you out of this. You stupid dyke.
Lady! I'm gonna kill you!
It got named, it got pulled, and then it just, I mean, it stayed gone. We're talking like 30 years before British audiences could legally get it fully uncut. So, you know, think about that. A kid who saw the panic headlines as a teenager could have had his own kids before this thing came off the naughty list. That's the thing about this entry. It's not one dramatic raid, it's the sheer length of the sentence. 3 decades in the vault.
Oh, sweet mama. You're down.
Ever since the late 60s, there have been a growing number of campaigners against what they saw as the dangerous increase in permissiveness and the lowering of standards in society. Video nasties were a new battle in an old war.
Now this film, it was actually sold about being illegal. Cannibal Ferox, Umberto Lenzi's grimy Cannibal Holocaust knockoff.
Mike went completely crazy. He seemed to get a perverted kick out of making the poor son of a bitch suffer.
And carrying the greatest tagline in exploitation history. This was banned in 31 countries. And here's the beautiful part. That's actually not just hype I'm repeating. The Guinness Book of World Records actually listed as the most banned movie ever made.
I think I'm gonna be sick. Get me out of here.
On the strength of that exact claim. Now, is it true that 31 countries banned it? Well, nobody's actually ever produced the list. Several of those countries quietly lifted their bans years ago, and the poster still says 31. But that's the genius of it. The distributor printed the censorship on the poster as an advertisement. Come see the movie so dangerous, they outlawed it on 3 continents.
A film like Cannibal Ferox was withdrawn, and then it was re-released in a heavily cut version. And I remember renting it to have another look at it, and I thought, what's happened to this? It's been chopped to pieces. You know, chopped about worse than the people in the movie itself.
The ban wasn't the problem. The ban was the pitch. It landed on Britain's DPP nasty list right alongside the heavy hitters, and stocking it was a genuine risk. This is the moment the whole grindhouse business model, like turn the censorship into marketing, got weaponized.
Once it was then shown that the Obscene Publications Act did apply to violence, then the DPP began compiling a list of films, and this really became known as the kind of, you know, the video nasties list.
Despite being made in the early 1970s, Tobe Hooper's classic movie became one of the most famous video nasty titles of the early 80s. Like The Exorcist, that was taken off the shelves when the Video Recordings Act came into being.
Here's one that proves this whole thing was never really about how much blood was on the screen. Tobe Hooper's masterpiece has a dirty little secret. There's almost no actual gore in the film. It's just suggestion. It's a lot of sound design. great editing. And a hot Texas afternoon that turns your stomach. The horror, it's mostly in your head. So get this, it wasn't even banned on day one. It played in British cinemas with an X certification first. It was only afterwards, when the censors got a good look at the reputation it was building, that the door slammed shut.
Stop! Stop!
And it stayed shut for a long time. The BBFC refused it a clean certificate, and it wasn't until 1999, after a local Camden Council screening forced the issue, that this film finally got an uncut British release, 25 years in limbo.
I thought you was in a hurry.
A movie with barely a drop of on-screen blood, locked up because it was too good at making you think you saw something. One censor reportedly branded it the pornography of terror. If you want proof that Panic was about reputation over reality, it's this film right here.
And even though Texas Chainsaw Massacre wasn't a video nasty, it was almost the poster boy for it, you know, because what a brilliant name.
The Texas Chainsaw Massacre. After you stop screaming, you'll start talking about it.
And so when I asked Derek, put him in the witness box, what would you say about the cinematographic merit of this film?
Which I said was a well-executed film.
And the judge exploded. He said, well executed, well executed. The German invasion of Belgium was well executed. That doesn't mean it's any good.
So it was quite clear to me that the judge would have instructed the jury anyway.
So this movie is where somebody actually goes to prison.
The distributor of this film, David Grant, got put in prison for releasing a version that was actually slightly longer than the BBFC X-rated cut.
This American slasher, which is usually just called Nightmare, wasn't the most notorious title on the list by content.
Are you there, George? Daddy!
But it became the most legally explosive because its UK distributor, a man named David Hamilton Grant, became the only person jailed in the entire Video Nasty saga.
It was a surprise to everybody when somebody ended up going to jail over perhaps a different version of the film to the version the board had passed, but nonetheless a film that had had a cinema classification.
He wasn't fined, he wasn't even warned, but a custodial sentence of 18 months that was later knocked down to 12 for putting out a VHS that ran longer than the cut the censors had approved. And the reason the authorities came knocking, I mean, it's almost too good. Hamilton Grant marketed the tape with a guess the weight of the brain in a jar competition. That stunt got the film noticed by exactly the wrong people, and the rest is courtroom history.
David Hamilton Grant was the last person to be sent to jail for publishing, in effect. He was the last victim of censorship in this country.
There's a real great side saga here too. The gore was credited to the legendary Tom Savini, except Savini, he says he was a consultant at most on this film because he was busy on Creepshow at the time, and he sued to get his name off this thing. His name did vanish from later prints. And one more for the collectors, the original editor of this movie, Joe Cohen, years before Blood Simple. But the headline that matters, a man went to prison over how his tape got sold. That's about as real as a consequence gets.
It's hard all these years later just to convey how infuriating and actually frightening it was. People weren't doing jail time this hard for selling drugs.
And I think that was a surprise and a wake-up call to the industry.
The dream you can't escape, a lie.
And every newspaper that did a layout on Video Nasties would have the cover image of Cannibal Holocaust, which is this grotesque vision of what a third world cannibal looks like, tucking into a double handful of guts.
All right, you probably knew this one was coming because it's the big one. Ruggero Deodato made a film so convincing that the Italian authorities arrested him and they seized the movie because they believed he'd murdered his actors on camera. The found footage looked just too real for them. To get the charges dropped, Deodato had to produce his cast alive in court and explain on the record how a particularly grisly effect was faked. So there were actual murder charges against the director. They were dropped only by parading the living cast in front of the judge. Now, there is no bigger legal story in the history of exploitation cinema. Like, full stop right there. The only reason it's not number one is that one film caused an even broader, more lasting legal damage across an entire country's video industry.
He was hoping that she would go out into the media to say this awful film, please nobody watch it, and then he'd get a reaction when it was released. But of course it set off the whole chain of events.
I guess I've got a twist for number one, so try and stick with me here, because I think it's better than just naming one more gross out film. The single biggest legal consequence of the entire list, it isn't one movie. It's what these movies forced into existence. The panic these titles created. It led directly to real law, the Video Recording Act of 1984. After that, every tape in Britain legally had to be certified before it could be sold. The whole modern rating system for home video in the UK exists because of the films on this list. So if you want the movie that caused the most legal hell of it all, it's the category itself. These tapes, they didn't just get raided and prosecuted. Together they rewrote the law of an entire country. Every "This has been certified" logo on a British release for the last 40 years is a fingerprint left by the video nasties. It's not a movie getting punished by the system. That's a stack of grimy VHS tapes building the system.
I'm heavily influenced by the video nasties.
Up the stakes as far as, blood and guts horror was concerned, and I think that has influenced me more than anything.
I think good taste and horror often need to be enemies of each other to make good stuff.
The video nasties played a part in shaping the work that I've done. I look at the work that I've done with Darren. I look at ghost stories. I look at the way that I think about marketing, the way that I think about the impact that I want to have on an audience. Why did we have to go through all that madness?
They're either out here legally or are ironically being remade as Hollywood blockbusters now.
Big budget, glossy Hollywood remakes. History has proven those films have become part of our popular culture.
In hindsight, I don't think the Nasties scare was much to do with the content at all. I think it's much more to do with control.